The last two sections over percents include finding what percent one number is to another, as well as finding a given percent of a number. So the first thing that we'll start out working on is finding what percent one number is to another. And the first one is, well, I set up the equation for us already, but on number one, the question is, what percent of 40 is 22? So what you do is you just take your 22 and you divide it by 40. So I just have 22 over 40, and I'll do the math real quick. 22 divided by 40, and I get 0.55%. So it equals 0.55. is what my answer is. I'm then going to multiply that 0.55 by 100, so times 100. And if you use a calculator, you're going to come up with 55%. If you don't use a calculator, remember when you're multiplying by 100, all you have to do is move your decimal point 2 places to the right. So move that over 2 places to the right, and it gave me my 55%. Okay, so to answer the question, what percentage of 40 is 22? The answer is 55%. Let's do the next one. It is, what percent of 80 is 6.3? So I'm going to take my 6.3 and I'm going to divide it by 80. So 6.3 divided by 80. And I get a long number. I get 0.07875. So you can take that and you can multiply it by 100 and get 7.875. Or again, just move your decimal point 2 places, and that's going to give you 7.875. So 6.3 is 7.875% of 80. Or label it correctly. Let's do another one. Number 3 asks, what percent of 200 is 4? So again, simply take 4 and divide it by 200, and I get 0.02. I'm going to multiply that by 100, or simply just move my decimal point 2 places to the right, and I get 2%. So I know that 4 is actually 2% of 200. We'll do a couple more just to make sure you've got it. One of the problems, the next one is, what percent of 500 is 60? So I set it up. We're just going to take 60 divided by 500. And I get 0.12. Either multiply that by 100 or just move your decimal point over 2 places to the right, and you get 12%. So 60 is actually 12% of 500. The next one, 1 over 20, what percent is 1 of 20? I'm going to do my simple math. 1 divided by 20, I get 0.05. Move my decimal point over 2 spots, or multiply it by 100, and I get 5%. So I know that 1 is actually 5% of 20. And let's do the very last one, 3.6 over 24. So what percentage is, let's see, what number is this? This is actually number 6. So what percent of 24 is 3.6 is the question we're answering. So I'm going to take 3.6 divided by 24, and I get 0.15. Move my decimal point over 2 places, and I get 15%. Okay? So that is how you identify what percent one number is of another one. Simply divide and move your decimal point over 2 places, or multiply by 100. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do here is find a given percent of a number. So if you look at the worksheet number 1, the question is, what is 25% of 478? So I'm trying to figure out what number is 25% of 478. So to do that, to set up your equation, you first take your 25% and you divide it by 100. So I'm just taking that 25 and I'm dividing it by 100, and when I do that, I get 0.25, so 0.25. I then take that number, and I'm going to multiply it by my 478. So 0.25 times 478, and I get 119.5. So to answer the question, what is 25%, or what number is 25% of 478? And that is 119.5. So 119.5 is 25% of 478. Okay? And I did that by simply taking my percentage, removing the percentage sign, and dividing it by 100. That gave me 0.25, or 25/100ths. And I multiplied that by my original number of 478, and I ended up with 119.5. So 119.5 is 25% of 478. Let's do the next one. The next one wants to know, what number is 10% of 34? So take your 10% and divide it by 100. 10 divided by 100 is 0.1. And then I'm going to multiply that by 34. So 34. And that gives me 3.4. So to answer my question of what percentage 10% is of 34, 3.4 is 10% of 34, which you probably could kind of come up with that just by common sense, but that's how we work the math, so you know how to do the more difficult ones. Let's do number 3 real quick. The question is, what is 2.8% of 510? So I'm going to take that 2.8 and I'm going to divide it by 100, and 2.8 divided by 100 is 0.028, and now I'm going to multiply that by 510. And I get 14.28. So the question was, what is 2.8% of 510? And the answer is 14.28. So if you ever, again, want to know what percentage a number is of another number, simply take the percentage, divide it by 100, and then take that result and multiply it by the number you want to know the percentage of. All right? So hopefully these last two are just easy enough, just memorizing the simple equation, how to set it up and work it out, and then after that it's pretty much simple math. As always, let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and again, make sure you're going on the Evolve website and utilizing the student resources they have available.